why they started their company and what their company is about. So I think maybe we start at the end with Amir. Please take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Damien. Hello everyone. My name is Amir. Thank you for being here. I am the VP of Photonics at Mesa Quantum. So maybe a little bit about Mesa Quantum. Why we exist. Part of the New Faces panel. What we are doing. What is our value proposition? So we are a startup company based out of Boulder, Colorado. We are, with our current strategy, we are focusing on developing the next a suite of like quantum sensors, primarily focusing on atomic clocks. But not only that, leveraging the technology on other quantum sensing applications as well, which hopefully we'll talk about it a little more. With the current private funding that we have been able to raise, in addition to the Space Force grant that we have, our current North Star is basically developing the next generation of low swap chip scale atomic clocks, CSACs. There was a panel earlier talking about whether this concept of size, weight, and power matters a lot in quantum sensing, but for certain applications, especially for like defense-related application, it may matter. And to be honest with you, one of the reasons a lot of quantum sensors haven't been able to enter the mass market is probably due to that, and in addition to the cost. So yes, we are developing chip-scale atomic clocks. So what is the current state of the play? What is the value proposition of Mesa Quantum? Like, what are we adding to the market? Because, to be honest with you, chip-scale atomic clocks are nothing new. It nonetheless a complex technology, but has been there for, I would say, 20 years. And there are some players out there, Microchip, Teledyne, that they are already producing chip-scale atomic clocks. So what are we trying to do? What gap, if any, we are trying to fill out? So I think, atomic clock, chip-scale atomic clocks, the first thing that you'll see is probably, they have a variety of applications, like two-day panel, from defense-related application to like GPS-denied environments, generically for like PNT applications, but there could be applications for them in like consumer devices, such as autonomous driving vehicles, data centers for telecom applications, and so on and so forth. So I think the first thing that you'll see is probably the price tag for chip-scale atomic clocks is quite large. Each one is probably 3 to 5K at least. Another thing is the lead time. Right now, if you go and you want to buy something off the shelf, the earliest you get is somewhere in June or July 2025. So considering that a huge interest in the government, like I think in the previous panel, Rear was talking about, the PNT applications. And, recently the DoD has put out a call for, 1 million chip-scale atomic clocks at a price point of $300 per unit. So that's our current North Star. And we are trying to leverage our technology, optimize the different components that are used in a chip-scale atomic clock, whether it's a vapor cell, whether it's the laser component or the electronic driver, not only optimize their performance, but also reduce their size and improve their yield. So my background is mostly on like photonics, lasers, and typically a laser, a VCSEL, vertical cavity surface emitting laser that is used in a chip scale atomic clock, has, from like 100,000 VCSEL dye that you produce, the yield that you get is less than 5%. That means 95% of your lasers are just trashed. So, but there are solutions to improve the yield on them and also reduce the lead time on their production. So that's what we're trying to do at Mesa Quantum by reducing the lead time, doing something called a rapid prototyping for our customers, whether they're consumer side or on the defense side, being agile to develop better performing chip scale atomic clocks and also leverage the technology that we are doing on the photonic side, which I'm going to talk about, for other sensing applications as well, not only on the quantum sensors, also on biomedical sensing and other industrial sensing. So, so that's a little bit about Mesa Quantum, I hope.
Thank you.
Was that too long? Thank you.
Next, Clemens is joining us from attocube, and would love, please tell us about your company and your product and your journey.
Right. So thank you so much. My name is Clemens. I'm the principal scientist of attocube, and I'm responsible to assess, but mostly to demonstrate new markets and new technologies. So you could say to demonstrate disruptive innovation. We have a rather large R&D department, about 40 people, which is doing the incremental innovations. The department that I'm responsible for is rather small, 5 permanent employees. High risk, new markets, new technologies. And what attocube is probably most known for is a portfolio of instruments for mostly academic research. So it starts with microscopes. And when I say microscope, I mean a device that gives you an image, typically at very harsh conditions. So very low temperatures, very high magnetic fields, sometimes also for space applications. But it's more of a toolbox rather than a device or a product that you can use right away. And our recent demonstration is a magnetometer. It's a cryogenic magnetometer. And that's the first time that we release a product that can give a customer the ability to measure samples, to measure devices, superconducting devices, for instance, that works in cryogenic environments. So especially for failure analysis or checking if your simulation really matches the reality. That's the first, let's say, industry level product that I'm aware of that can do such a thing, and that is based really on lots of these ingredients that the company is best known for. And now we kind of switch horses with that a little bit, because it also means that you need a very different infrastructure, starting from let's say from how you ship your devices, how you install your devices, your products, but also how you do the customer service, right? So now we're facing customers asking questions about software, about wires, about every little part of it, while before that it was just one part out of many that attocube was responsible for. So attocube started about 20 years ago, and it's a spin-off from a company. It's a spin-off from a university. We're now 250 employees, a little bit more than that. And we started without any funding. So we had never any state funding. We started just some years ago to actually use funding from Europe, from Germany. And this is what we use as a department, as an innovation team, how we call it, to embark on these more risky, on these more innovative demonstrators towards a product.
Thank you. I think next we'll go to Poolad, who from Icarus, harnessing the largest photon generator in the world, I guess. But no, I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, thanks, Damien. Yeah, thrilled to be here. Poolad Imani, the founder and CEO of Icarus Quantum. We're a 3-year-old startup. We're based in beautiful Boulder, Colorado, like Mesa, and we spun out from NIST. So we're making scalable quantum interconnects to connect quantum computers to each other, scaling them up, and frankly, to connect any types of quantum technologies together. And, the reason is, especially if you're focusing on quantum computing, as we heard this morning, quantum computers are getting bigger and bigger, more physical qubits, lower noise. But regardless of the modality, as you scale these systems up, you'll hit a wall in how many physical qubits you can put in one enclosure. And this is mostly due to the fact that you have to keep all these qubits cold, and you have to keep them from interacting with each other in a way that you don't want them to. So that limit is about thousands of qubits. So we haven't gotten there yet, but hopefully we will soon. And that is where Icarus would come in. We're going to make links to make quantum computers modular. And that would be much like GPUs, but won't scale the processing power of quantum computers linearly. It would actually do it exponentially. So very important for kind of the future of quantum computing. But not only that, we can also connect quantum sensors to each other, or use our photons to distribute entanglement efficiently. So what we're doing is there are different platforms for quantum computing, but there's only one platform for networking them at room temperature, and that is photons. So we're making photons very efficiently, and specifically entangled photons. So with these entangled photons, we can distribute entanglement for secure communications. You can connect quantum computers to each other. And the way that we do this is with semiconductor quantum dots. These are old platforms. Our group at NIST have been working on this platform for the past 25 years. And year after year, quantum dots have been breaking the record efficiency for single photons. And we're taking our proprietary technology and the kind of background from NIST to make these systems more scalable, more efficient, and also extending these efficiencies to entangle photon sources. And so far, we're a team of 7 scientists, entrepreneurs, having a lot of experience in quantum emitters, quantum networking, also entrepreneurship. So far, we haven't raised any dilutive funding, been all non-dilutive. Mostly from SBIR STTRs, we've raised about $2.3 million from the United States Air Force, Space Force, NASA, NIST itself, of course. And earlier this year, we demonstrated our first prototype, which was a single photon source with modest efficiencies, 5%, which since then we've increased that to 20%. And we're on track to have our first MVP, which is going to be an entangled photon source next summer. So yeah, thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Yuya is joining us from LQUOM, and please take it away and tell us about what you're building.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. Such an honor to be here to have opportunity to introduce our company. So my name is Yuya Mochizuki, CFO at LQUOM, and also I'm in charge of the global expansion business development. And so what we do is developing the quantum repeaters, especially for the long-distance quantum communication. And our company is established in 2020, January, so which is almost 5 years old. And also a spin-off startup company from Yokohama National University, so which means we are very close to the university. And Professor, our Chief Science Officer, Professor Horikiri, he's focusing on the basic research for the quantum repeaters for more than like 20 years. So why we need a quantum repeater is as we all know, like quantum itself is very weak with optical fiber loss and environmental noise. So that's why we need a quantum repeaters, especially if this is just an example from here, I mean Silicon Valley to New York, it's roughly 4,000 kilometers. And if we try to even just one quantum qubit without quantum repeaters, I haven't calculated precisely, but it would take like years and years for forever. So even walking and transfer information physically would be much faster and safer. So that's why to achieve that, we need a quantum repeaters. And in terms of our technology, quantum repeaters, there are 3 key components. One is 2 photon source, which generate entangled photon. One is for the quantum memory, and the other one is for the telecommunication wavelengths. So this is quantum to hot source, which is successfully launched the first product this summer. And also second one is quantum memory, which is based on atomic frequency QUOM and using the rare earth dot crystals. And lastly, we have a laser stabilization module, which is, that we need to combine these technologies. So that's why we need this one. So this is our quantum repeaters. And also, let me focus on who is trusting on our technology. We finished the Series A fundraise last year, and Toshiba, one of the key players in quantum Q distribution, they are also one of our investors. And also, we secured grants from the Japanese government, including the part of the Ministry of Defense. So definitely, national security will be our use case in the beginning. And lastly, we also do the testbed project with SoftBank, which is one of the telecommunication companies. And successfully, we delivered our first product to hot source to their facilities. And now we keep how we can implement our technology to their existing optical fiber. So that's a brief summary. And also in terms of the business side, what we do is very ambitious, and we need to create, infrastructure for the quantum internet. So that's why for us, it's very important to create an ecosystem with, global partners and the enterprise. So like I said, like SoftBank to provide our quantum internet to the end users. And also we need to find out the end users like defense or financial institutions or maybe pharmaceutical for the DNA information. That will be our use cases. And also the materials on the other side, materials or devices to supply our quantum repeaters. So that's how we create the ecosystem in Japan. But also it's important for us to create the same ecosystem, not only Japan, but also the outside of Japan. So that's why I'm here in the US, and also Europe will be our target. And the last but not least, we are also looking for the global talents, especially for the researchers and our business development. So if you have some of them are interested in our technology and the company, so we also have the booth out downstairs. So let's connect and hope we can talk. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I think maybe keeping on the theme, so each of you is in slightly different sectors, but you're all sort of working on products where you're trying to sort of skate to where the puck is going, and so there's an element of needing the ecosystem that you're going to be selling into to kind of develop further. Touching on what you said, how much work are you doing to educate your customers to build partnerships so that the ecosystem is ready for you once you have a ready saleable quantum repeater in your case?
I think so everyone creating the ecosystem, not only the quantum network but also the quantum computing side. So I think this is not chicken and egg problem. Like looking back to our classical digital internet or computers, they parallelly established the ecosystem. So that's why we also believe that's very important for us. We should create our own ecosystem, but also there's something like we can collaborate with other ecosystems. So that's how we created the ecosystem.
Good. And Clemens, maybe I'll put the same question to you. Are you finding that there's a ready market for the products that you're distributing, or are you having to sort of educate your customers as to why they need the product as well?
Yeah, I think my point of view is slightly different on that. Also because ecosystem for me or for the customer is more an ecosystem of acquiring the resources. So, and because right now what we're focusing is on sensing, is on metrology. we need to educate the customer what our instrument is useful for. But there's no need for an ecosystem that spans multiple customers, like for quantum communication, for quantum repeaters, right? There's no market for quantum repeater if there's no quantum source, there's no quantum detector, and so on. So that's why this is there's a different problem for me. And I think this is a lesser problem, actually. So I think the twist, or my problem in the beginning, in the very beginning, in this ideation phase, is more to really focus on the user's pain point, or you could say on the market's pain point. And ideally, it's not you go to a conference, you go to a customer or something. It's not what the customer tells you. It's not the customer will tell you, okay, I don't know, my single photon source is not efficient enough, or my detectors are not efficient enough, or whatever. The real innovation happens when you address a user's pain point where the user is not aware of it, right? And that in retrospective appears to be super obvious that this is a problem. But when you talk to a customer, the customer is used to having, I don't know, complicated, heavy machinery, and you find a way to make it much more elegant, complex, cheaper, whatsoever. But no one thought about it because everyone took it for granted. And so that's where I'm starting. In terms of ecosystem, what is becoming more and more important are regulations, especially in terms of export. So importing from the US, having customs in China, for instance, but also Europe is coming up with more and more regulations on what you can export and what you can import in terms of quantum technologies. So that's when I hear ecosystem in terms of quantum technologies, it's really this legal side, export, imports, which is very volatile as of today.
And we'll come back to the sort of networking component of this in a moment. But on the sensing side, Amir, when we were speaking the other day, I think much has been made over the last sort of couple of years on the application of quantum sensors in positioning, navigation, and timing. But I think you were particularly excited about applications in other areas where it may not be getting the same level of funding at the moment, but are equally promising down the road in the sensing world.
No, absolutely, yeah, totally. Like today's conversations, like earlier sessions, talking about there was a session called like, will PNT be the killer app for quantum sensors? Like I think there were like opposing opinions on like whether that's the case or no. But coming maybe on the opposing side that it may not be, when at Mesa Quantum, we are developing, we are optimizing different components of an atomic clock, chip scale atomic clock. One of the primary components is the laser light source, the photonic source. And interestingly, I was not aware of it until very recently. A lot of performance requirement for this laser light source is pretty identical to other adjacent sensing applications. Whether it's biomedical or consumer or industrial. Biomedical per se is a very interesting area for sensing because not only it uses the same wavelength regime, but also the requirements are quite similar to quantum sensors, whether it's atomic clock or magnetometer or gyroscope. And the other beneficial side on like exploring other sensing application, including biomedical, which is that we are able to the applications are in a shorter reach to us. We are able to work with customers that have more well-defined target devices that they're trying to develop, and leverage our laser technology that we're developing for quantum sensor for biomedical applications. As an example of that, for example, for an atomic clock, you need a laser light source at like 795 nanometer. And interestingly, you need you need a laser with the same characteristic for biological tissue imaging or for tomography. And I think it's a great opportunity. It hasn't been really explored a lot. And in the last maybe 5 years, a lot of big suppliers of lasers for biomedical application have kind of stepped away due to, maybe high R&D costs, not very off-the-shelf type of sales pitch. And I think it's a great opportunity to enter this market. We are pursuing customers, whether it's in the US, in Germany, and for tomography, oxygen level measurement, glucose monitoring, kind of all type of non-invasive biomedical sensing application. And yes, so I do see the value of that. I do see that it attracts a lot of customers in biomedical sensing, and also it helps us as a startup company. It helps us bring short-term revenue and profit. So yeah, it's a very promising area that I think we will be focusing on, and we are focusing on. So yeah.
And do you mind if I ask, like, what's your balance between biomedical applications and PNT applications in terms of sort of?
Oh, that's a great question. No, that's a great question. So, to be honest with you, our primary goal right now is to develop, whatever we are doing, photonics side, electronic side, working for chip scale atomic clock, because that's because of the, Space Force grant that we got, or the private seed round fund that we raised. But in 2025, so we have we are delivering on our Space Force prototype this summer, 2025, and we are using that by end of 2025. We are working with biomedical customers to develop laser light sources. So our primary application is for PNT, at least for 2025, but later on in this year, since we're developing laser components for those devices, we are going to use it and utilize it and sell it to the biomedical component manufacturers. So,
okay, thanks.
Sure.
So bringing us back to the networking side, I think you guys, Poolad and Yuya, you're kind of coming at sort of a few different areas in networking, but maybe kind of addressing the communication side as opposed to the QPU networking side. Is there still a divergence between kind of the approaches in Europe, whether the QKD sort of preference relative to the US? Is that still an issue, or is that kind of waning? And how much does that impact you guys?
I think in the US, there's been a lot of progress in terms of what we think is QKD and what we're going to do. But in Europe, there's been a lot of infrastructure building because of all the QKD experiments. So that is ready. That is definitely, quantum networks are now ready to move on to entanglement distribution. And in US, we said, hey, we don't want to do QKD, which is with weak coherent pulses. We're just going to focus on entanglement distribution, which set us back. But I think now we're catching up more. But actually on the private sector side, some companies I'm seeing are focusing on QKD more. So that is definitely helping as well.
Yeah.
So I think so we are focusing on the hardware side, not software. So focusing on the quantum repeaters. But as a startup or as a company, I think it's very important to prove that we can make a profit and we can create the industry. And unfortunately, we our quantum repeater is still under development, and also it would take like a few years to be done. Anyway, no one in the world have done yet so far. But we can't wait until that. So that's why we launched the first product, quantum photon source, to create the ecosystem on the customers. So that's how we solved that situation. And also we are feeling the pressure like from venture capital and also the government, like, we should, prove that, we have industry and we can sell the product.
Okay.
So I guess this question sort of applies to all of you. You're all working to some degree in hardware. Hardware is hard. Takes longer roadmaps often than software. You touched on this a little bit in just a moment ago, but how do you manage perceived long roadmaps? Like, how do you show incremental progress, proof of concepts? Maybe some of this is ecosystem development, but there's also sort of showing touch points to investors and to customers that you'll be there in the long term. Maybe sort of starting with you, Amir.
Yeah, sure. No, I think that's a great question for any type of startup company. How do you go from like your proof of concept device all the way to like kind of high volume manufacturing? I think the first thing that makes sense is probably delivering on what you promised, whether it's prototype or not. But then I think the next thing that usually comes up is having the available resources as your supply chain when you go to high volume manufacturing, and how intimately you're involved with your supply chain, because different companies, big or small, they all have supply chain. They all work with partners, but the level of intimacy that you work with your partners really define the quality of your work, and it defines your cost. It defines your profit, short term, mid term, long term, and also, it brings a good name for the company. So, and in addition to that is like always being up to date, especially like in this quantum overall world. You always need to be aware of like the compliance, the regulatory issues and things like that. So, having presence in, such as here, always being present in the environments which you can influence the decision making, whether it's regulation or the compliance or things like that. So I think probably in these three aspects, if you have an active presence, probably you can have a good workflow.
Poolad, how about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I really do want to echo what Amir just said. We have to kind of demonstrate our milestones step by step and have clear milestones to begin with. But along the way, there needs to be strategic partners, and again, first to build the device and then to build an ecosystem. I guess all of us here are trying to build a market, but we also have to kind of time everything right to grow with the market as well and anticipate the things that we might not be able to anticipate. So kind of looking at the standard deviations here and there. And that is much more prominent in communications and security, because whether we want it or not, it is very connected to quantum computing, whether it is on the security side, whether it's on modular quantum computing side. And so we have to find the right strategic partners there to for on the quantum computing, but also on building the network, which has a lot of hardware that goes into it, not just sources.
And Yuya, how about you?
I think they, already covered all, but if I add something like, I think even communication with the strategic partner is also important. Even, sometimes we have a bad news and we can't achieve the goals, but, communicating with the people and why, what will be the challenge for us and why we can do that. Then, keeping the good relationship with the partners is also the very important thing.
So we're down to the 60-second buzzer round here. In 12 months when we're sitting here, what's going to be the biggest news item in quantum that everybody's going to be talking about? Like, you can, in one or two words or so, starting with Clemens.
I think in a year we'll have more and more products to provide quantum sensing for failure analysis and for navigation.
Amir?
Yes, I'm going to go with the photonics side, and I'm going to say there has been a huge divide on the photonics and quantum sensing. So I'm quite bullish on the fact that there's going to be huge advancements from Mesa Quantum and other research venues on the application of photonic devices in quantum sensors. So I think that's probably the biggest update in a year or so.
Poolad?
I would say more advancement on satellite-based quantum networking, but also distribution of entanglement for something useful and sending sensitive data across quantum networks. That would be really cool, and I think we'll be able to do it. Not us, but, as a community.
You get the last prediction.
Okay, so not sure, but I hope more and more in the test bed, and they, some of them try to the overall long distance communication, like more than 100 kilo or 200 kilo. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all we have time for today. But thank you very much, everybody, for joining us, and great panelists here. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.